Hello, you're welcome to the third edition of our JavaScript tutorial. In this particular tutorial, we are going to look into some real projects that we can do with HTML and JavaScript. So we are going to be building a voting app for a parliament. So it's just a very simple voting app where in a parliament, when a bill is passed, um, there are people that vote against the bill and there are people that vote in favor of the bill. So we are going to build a voting system where those that are for the bill, we vote for the bill, and those that are against the bill, we vote against the bill. Okay, so let's start. Now, let's name this Senate votes. Let's create a form of a screen for that. So we are going to have a screen. Okay, so we have this H1 for title, and then we create the screen, and within the screen we are going to have the part of the screen that prints for vote for, and then we also have the part of the screen that prints for vote against. And for now, they are going to just print 0 votes and 0 votes. So let's view this on a live server. So you can see we have 0 votes and 0 votes. All right, then let's now create the button area down here. Okay, so this is the button area, and we have 2 buttons, which is vote for and vote against the bill. So these 2 buttons, I want them to be side by side. That's why I have to wrap them into a container with a class button area or BTN area, so that I can use display grid or display flex to display them accordingly. Okay, so having this, I already have a CSS on this place, so I'm going sorry, I'm going to link the CSS style to it. But before then, let's see how it looks. So this is what we have. So we have vote for the bill, and then we have vote against the bill. So there is an issue here for that vote against. So I'm going to remove this, and we have 2 buttons. So what we will do is we want the vote for to be under the button of vote for, and then vote against to be under the vote button for vote against. So but meanwhile, we should have a screen. Okay, so I'm going to put up a CSS. I am going to leave the repository link to the GitHub where you can copy the CSS style to your own IDE. So don't bother yourself with the CSS, because this is not a CSS tutorial. If you want to learn CSS, you can go to my CSS tutorial to see how I did the whole thing. Okay, so I am going to just link a CSS, but meanwhile, let's just have this side by side. So to link my CSS, I'll come at the top here, and then just type link, and then this is going to be inside the static folder and under the CSS directory, and my CSS is styles.css, and that's what you can see here. So automatically my CSS is here, and you can see the screen area, and then you can now see 0 vote, 0 vote. So this is under the vote for, and then this is under the vote against. So anybody can actually identify which vote is counting in each axis. So that's just what my CSS styles does. And you can see that if I click on the vote for, there is nothing happening. If I click on the vote against, nothing is also happening. So I will go ahead to create my JavaScript. So my JavaScript is going to be the main.js, and it is under the JS directory, which is under the static directory. So let's link that. So for formalities or for the best practices, it is good to link your JavaScript just below the body ending tag. So I'm going to do that. Scripts and script source, and this is going to be the static directory under the JS directory, and the name is main.js. And to be sure that my JS is running, I can just simply use alert, and if I see this, it actually means my JS is running perfectly. So I will remove this. All right. So what we actually need to do now is to create functions that we handle the vote for, and then the function that will also handle the vote against. Now take note, we have in the screen, we have a paragraph with an ID of vote for, and then we also have another paragraph with an ID of vote against. So this means that what I am going to use to manipulate this, the DOM here, or this HTML here, is document.getElement by ID. So like I used to tell you, it is not mandatory that you must use document.querySelector. You can actually use document.getElement by ID. So let's do that. So I am going to create a function. So I can just call this function. So a function can appear like this, the function, and then the name of the function, and then here is the parameters of the function, and then here is the function block. Now, this is the old way of writing a function. I am going to be making use of the new method of writing a function because I already know that I have taught you how to use this type of function. So, but the next thing that I would also be showing you in this video is how to use the arrow function, because that is what ECMAScript, the recent ECMAScript or the recent JavaScript introduced. So the arrow function. So here I am going to have a variable. Let's use let, or we can use const, but let's use let, and let's call this variable vote for. So this is going to be a camel case variable. So vote for is going to be a function, which is going to be an arrow function. It's going to be a function. So this is how we write an arrow function. So this is how arrow function looks like. So this is just like the name of the function, because this is the function actually. This is the function, and whatever name of the variable here has been assigned to this function, or the function has been assigned to this variable. So whenever you call this variable, you are actually calling the function. So that's what we are doing here. So this is the recent JavaScript function method. Okay, so I want you to assimilate that. That's why I am making use of this arrow function here. Okay, so let's now write the logic that we handle the vote for. So, but before we begin to write this logic, I want to have two global variables, and let's call them vote1 and vote2. So let's say let vote1 be 0. So this is going to be a global variable, and then let vote2 be 0. So the vote 1 is going to be the vote for. So we can still call it vote for, whatever thing you want to call it. It's just that I don't want to repeat the terms that I use in each of these functions and the variables. So I can just call this vote 1 for the vote for, and then vote 2 for the vote for. So this is going to be their initial votes. It's going to be the value of their initial vote, because at start their vote number should be 0. Then when you start voting, it begins to count the vote by 1, 2, 3, and so on. So that is their initial votes. So I can, and because this is a global variable, I can easily access it in the functions. So that's why I made them global variable, but you can still make them local variable and use them. Okay, so now what I want to do now is I want to assign let vote it be vote 1 plus plus, because I want to increment it. So what I did here is that I want to make increment of this vote 1. So vote 1 is going to be increasing by 1 whenever the button is clicked. So that's what we did, and we assigned vote 1 to be vote, okay, and we can actually output it by document dot get element by id, document dot get element by id. So what ID are we targeting for vote for, which is vote for? So we are going to target ID for vote for, which is vote for vote, and we can bring it into this place, and then dot, we can use text content, which is equal to vote. So this is actually to say that whatever vote we have here, which is 0 initial vote, should increment, and then when it increments, it is assigned to be the variable called vote. And this variable is going to be outputted on the tag that has the class for vote in the HTML. So let's see if this is working. We can use what we call event listeners on the button. So I'm not going to be using event listeners inside this variable, this JavaScript. I am going to do it the traditional way. So let's go to the button that I want to handle vote for. Okay, and then on the button, I am going to call the event listener called onClick. So on click, I want this function to play. So I want this particular function to play. So I am going to just put up the function here. And you know, when you are calling a function, you must call the function with this parameter, this type of bracket, and that's all. So let's try to see if this is working. So this is actually working. It's working, and you can see it is incrementing by 1. But there is an issue. If we refresh this again, we have 0 votes, and if we click this button, it starts from 0. And then if you click again, so which means that the first vote was not counted. I will leave that for you to fix it. Okay, I will leave that for you to fix. But one thing I want is that when you have something like this, it says 0 vote, and I want us to be able to count the number as well as mention votes by the side. So we can just go to the JavaScript and we can concatenate by using plus 0 vote, then let's give a space and then add another plus and use votes. And this is all. This is on. Let's now try it again. Sorry. Vote plus vote. Let's be sure that this is saved. And let's retry it again. Okay. You can see we have 10 votes and it is still reading the votes. So let's handle for against. So when it is against, let's handle that. So we can come to JavaScript again. So what I will do, since I have this already, I am not going to be doing it from scratch. I can just copy this function and bring it down here. And so this is going to be vote against. And this is going to be vote to. And that's all. So what we have here is that we take this vote to and then we increment vote to by 1 and assign it to this variable called vote. And then we can output the vote under the vote against. So we are going to look for the ID for the vote against, and this is against vote. So we can copy the ID and then place it here. And that's all we need to do. And we can just copy this function and go to the button, which is this button that handles the vote against. And we are going to call the event onClick. onClick. And we want this function to play out. And that's all we need to do. Let's try it. You can see it is working. So now, one thing that I want you to look into is that we have the same variable here and here. And this is because of their scope. So this is a local scope variable, which means outside of this function, this particular variable is no longer accessible. The same thing happens here. So we can use the same name for different stuffs, but we cannot use it outside here because this is a global scope. So whatever we have here can be accessible within the functions. Okay, so that's just it. So this is our voting app. Let's so if you have not subscribed to this channel, please click on the subscription button and subscribe, and hit on the notification bell so that anytime I post a video, you'll get notified. Now let's go to the next lesson.